Good morning and welcome to Frank's School. This is a continued update, July update on what's going on here at the Camp Ranch campus at Frank's School. The heat and humidity is now a problem, just like, in the winter it's the cold, a lot of times it's the wind. A lot of this stuff is a struggle, but, I'm doing the best I can. You can only do so much. Now, I've heard again from the man that I mentioned at the end yesterday, the man from Hong Kong, and I understand better what he's thinking and where he's coming from. His visit here with his two sons, three of them, would be part of a larger tour, centered in a way in Toronto, but it involves a concert tour for one son in Europe, I think his wife and his daughter. I forgot that he had a daughter. I don't know how I could have. They I think are going to stay in Toronto, and sensibly in a way, because he does realize that this is pushing it. To come here. This is an adventure, and maybe a little too much for his wife and daughter. So I know a little bit more. What I want to do today is just look at this mess. I keep mentioning that there's all these folk huts that I've torn them down, I've unbuilt them to rebuild them, and I keep saying, well, there's around 30, there's around 25. And I thought, well, why don't I just draw them and show them where they are? So here, I'm just going to run through this to show you, yeah, I'm actually talking about real objects. These circular things have to do with other buildings that are here, or else not part of the play. This is a cherry tree house. This is the house where I live in. This is the wagon shed. This stuff is basically not part of the Camp Ranch campus. That's sort of my larger family's domain. This is a big, this covers a well. In a way it is. This is the oldest barn that my grandfather built. This is the newer barn, both built in the 1950s. This is a blacksmith shop. This is a place where there will be a windmill and a water wheel going this way. But I won't get to it this year, I don't think. I can't imagine I'll be able to do much this year. This is going to be there'll be a water wheel here, there'll be a water wheel here. It's going to be a set of mills and stuff, I think. So that stuff is there, but they're not exactly folk huts. This one may actually be 3 folk huts in a row, and there may actually be a folk hut here too as a way of crossing the water. The arrows indicate water supply. Let me start with this one. Here's a water supply from Oppenheimer Run that goes over this water wheel and that water wheel. These are water wheels that are proposed or started but have not been built. This water supply comes from the mountain. It goes over an aqueduct, or it will, down an aqueduct to the barn, along the barn, and down over this one water wheel. It also can be used this way to turn that water wheel, to turn these water wheels. And this is a supply that comes from this same stream, but lower down when it gets really dry, as it used to. It would also supply this. This whole area is the garden. This whole area is this, I call it the impossible garden, because it has to do with mine drainage. This was iron mine, there's iron mining over there. But anyway, back to the huts. These are the huts. This one down here is furthest. The wind tends to blow this way, and its purpose is going to be to hold things that are highly flammable. In case it would catch fire, I wouldn't want it up in here. But it also will stretch the clotheslines from these 4 buildings. This will be a bathhouse. This will be a laundry, water powered. Remember now, a lot of this you might think it's not very practical. Well, it's for teaching. This is a school. This will probably be a little dwelling. This will be a tiny grist mill in a way. Again, water powered, but with some small machines for shelling and grinding corn and some other things. This is not a, and here is something we call the beast. This is an incinerator. This is the hammer hut. It's too complicated to explain right now. This is where, if the Chinese man actually comes here, I think that's the place where I could house him and his sons. most comfortably. It actually has a roof. It's a building that I moved from across the road down here, and it needs work desperately. That's one of the reasons I hadn't really thought of it. But I could probably get it into some kind of decent shape. I think of it as a curator's house. If this whole thing were like a museum, there would be a good place for the curator of the museum to live. These two form a hog yard. That's where my pigs go. One I had in mind a harness shop, the other a stove, wood stove or coal stove shop. This actually a little bit of a this one would be all glass, I think, and it would be like a conservatory with a heating system underneath it, and there's a heating system that would go like that. Here's a bench. There's a bench intended right here as well. These are sort of, I don't know if I'll get to them, but they're ready there. These two house a couple of machines, but between them would be a windmill. That would not be directional. It could only deal with wind out in the north. But there, and from the windmill, water wheel underneath here, those would be two ways to power a line shaft that goes through here, as well as electric or gasoline if I want to. This is the blacksmith shop. All right, over here now. This I got this wrong. This should be sort of up here more. The water supply will come variously over the huts, partly to irrigate the roof gardens. This I call Hannah Hut, and it will carry over the top of it the water supply. These two don't exactly have them designated their purposes, but they will continue to carry the head race for a very high water bill right there, like over 20 feet big. This is for well, this one is for building. There's a shop area right there for building water wheels, and here a shop area for building windmills. This is a cooper's shop. This one, as I say, not exactly dedicated, maybe for living or for staying. This one down here is beyond the fence, and it's for mounting windmills. Once the windmill has been built, it's in a sense it's actually kind of a crane to be able to safely get up there and mount windmills to try them out. This is the gardener's collection. There'll be some agricultural tools there. No water power, but wind power. The reason I clustered them like I did was because the three of them together could support a windmill. And when it gets really dry, as it used to, I don't know if it's, with the climate change, it's hard to tell. It used to always get dry in July and August, and into September, not now. It just kind of stopped, which makes a lot of this stuff possible. There is a water supply. The gardener could live there or here. Its purpose really is to pump water if it's needed up into the gardens if it's needed. And this is gardening. This is gardening. All right, what did I skip? Let me come up to here. Okay, those are just possibilities. I haven't really started them yet. But here, this one is standing right now, but I'm going to take it down. It's the last one to be decommissioned. I'm going to take its parts and move them here. But I'll probably still have one there. It's just isolated by itself. You see, most of these are in clusters. These three are an experiment to show how the huts can be modular. And this is where I imagined that I would have, and still may, have the Chinese man. I keep referring to him that way because I'm not certain how to call him. King Liu or something like that is his name. To have three of them together close enough that they could share space. This is a sawmill. This is a windmill complex. This is a very high windmill. Well, no. Yeah, but there's a gazebo that goes there and a gazebo that goes there. I have these parts laying around. This indicates a place big enough to burn pallets. The same thing is here. This cluster, I think here's a cluster. They will share the heat from a furnace, and also for drying clothes, big enough to burn pallets. That's a cluster. this really is a cluster, this is a cluster, this is a cluster, this is a cluster. And then finally up in the woods, there's 4 of them together, which I probably won't go to this year much, but the 4 of them together, a cluster, make what I call a goat fold, where I could fold the goats up there in the woods. If I had to have a place where I could keep them separate up in there, it would be there. And there's one way up in the woods, which would be alone. This, let's see, this is a summer kitchen. No, this is a summer kitchen. This is for out for where the tractor is going to park. And this is the latrine. This is the one I'm working on right now. All right, that was fast. Bye, friends.